Hi all, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I'd talk about the DNF that I had on the Dragon's Back race. So this was my very first DNF. It's taken about 3 months to make this video while I just process all the information. So for those who don't know what the Dragon's Back is, it's a 380 kilometre run over 6 days from Conway to Cardiff. I personally had been training for a few years to do this. Ever since I started ultra running, the end goal for me was to do the Dragon's Back race. So I started about 4 or 5 years ago. Started with shorter races. I did the Copper Sky Trail in Snowdonia, moved up to UTS 50, UTS 100, did a few other races like a 100-kilometre race in the Lake District, and then it all came to around 2024, and that's when I aimed to do the Dragon's Back race. So I'd entered for that year, training was going great, it was really the fittest I'd ever been. So I trained really hard for that race, and then when I was racing in the Lake District in the July of 2024, I hurt my ankle and it didn't recover in time for the race in September, so I managed to defer the entry at that point. Come round into 2025, I'd gone over on my ankle again badly in the October. I'd been doing lots of rehab work, but I'd missed out a big chunk of training. So when it came round to getting close to the event, training was going fairly well. I'd managed to get some decent blocks in. Ankle still wasn't good, and I couldn't defer the entry a second time, so I thought, I might as well give it a go. So I'd strapped it all up. I'd been strapping it up all year to give me some support, and I thought, what can we do with the fitness level, and let's just go out and enjoy ourselves. So I went through everything. Anybody who's done any of these 6-day races, there's strict weight limits on what you can take in your bags, what you can move from camp to camp. So I've gone through all that, put all the nutrition together that I'd need for the full week, loaded up my bags, done all the trainer work. I'd recce'd all but the last day of the route. So I'd gone through all the mountains multiple times, knew the different routes I was going to take to try and give me the best chance I could with where I was in fitness wise. So I was on the start line and very, very nervous, as you can imagine. You've been working for 2 years training specifically for this A race for me at this point. So we started, everything was good, went through the castle, what an electric atmosphere. Then we start climbing up the first hill coming out of Conway. And would you believe it, down the very first hill, I went over on my ankle again. So I was like, hobbling for a little while. And then I managed to run through it and keep going to a reasonable pace and reasonable speed for me. So I was happy with that. And we had our first bit of, well, you might call it bad luck or good luck. It depends what you think. But the weather was so windy that they decided to reroute us around Cribgoch and just go up the pig track up to Snowdon. As soon as that happened, I knew, first day was going to be completed for me, because that was my only real concern. I had 2 concerns on day one. One, I'm not very quick coming downhill. So coming down Triffin is always a struggle for me, Triffin and the Glidders, and then also going across Cribgoch takes me quite a while. So, but after that, I knew that we would make the end of day one, and I made pretty good time through most of it. The last descent, oh man, it was absolutely brutal. The ground was so slippy, so slick, that even all the way down, I think I'd fallen maybe twice over the last 2 years of training for this. I must have gone over 7 or 8 times just down this last descent. it was just like ice. And unfortunately, we did see somebody who'd come down and injured themselves, and in camp a few hours later we heard the helicopter come on, and I assumed that it just took a long time, because to move the person would have been incredibly difficult with how slippy and slick that was. But made it to the bottom, probably about 9 o'clock, so an hour-ish to spare on the cut-offs, and then we came into camp. And this was my first real experience of camp on a multi-day event. So I'd planned to do all the admin work and started to do it all. And you're exhausted, you're laying out your camp bed, you're repacking your race bag for the next morning, all still while trying to have a recovery shake, a recovery bar, to give yourself the best opportunity. So then I went to the tent to go and get some dinner, and the last thing I felt like doing was eating, but I was like forcing myself to eat as much as I could. So I had a couple of plates of dinner, and it wasn't that I was feeling sick, it was just a feeling that like I just can't eat. So also then hydrated as much as possible, so I had some more electrolytes, made sure I was drinking juice, and I had a couple of cups of coffee as well, just to keep things going. So then as soon as I'd finished that, it was like straight to bed, give yourself every opportunity. I knew that day 2 was always going to be difficult for me. It was going to be that crux day. So what I did was in bed as soon as I could to recover. Knew I had to be leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, no later, to give myself every possible chance that I could. So woke up next day, again, really didn't feel like eating at all, but then managed to get a large plate of breakfast down, sausages, the vegan vegetarian sausages, scrambled egg, again had some coffee, managed to go to the loo, so we didn't have to stop on the hill when you get going. So everything was done, went through bag check, everything was great. So we started, and off through the gate we went. Legs were really tired, but I managed to keep them moving and was okay. And I know I'm okay at climbing. I can climb, and not lose too much time to everybody else. So we went through, went up Connect, no problem at all. That first descent down Connect, again, not my strong point descending, but on that next section through to the water point, the leaders must have started. The leaders come piling past me, and it was really a wake-up call to me on just how fast, the top guys and girls are, downhill especially. They just streamed past me, and definite thing for me to look at going in the future. So I made the first water point. I mean, the emotions were really flowing. I knew I was pushing it. I knew I was behind time. The section coming down to the dam near Festiniog, I was just hemorrhaging time. I just couldn't move quick enough coming down these hills. But I got to the water point, with plenty of time to spare. So, thought, okay, let's dig deep, let's push really hard. And the next section I pushed, really, really hard wherever I could on the flats round the reservoir where the nuclear power station is, and then we would climb up. And again, that was okay. I was starting to feel it on the climb up there, just because I'd been pushing so hard for my standards, to give myself every opportunity up there. And that's when I started to really struggle up over. It is we came to the first bit of the Rhinogs really, and it was tough. I kept on pushing as much as I could, but I mean, the terrain up there, I must have practiced up there, I don't know, 15 times easy. I don't think I ever found good lines. I don't think I ever made a good time going over there. And it was, through that section that I knew I was going to be timed out. And the emotions just hit you. I mean, I made a promise to myself that there was no chance I was going to retire on this event. If I was to stop, somebody would have to stop me. And the realization that that was going to happen, it just hits you like a brick. It's really, really difficult to describe. You're out in the mountains at this point. I'd seen the odd people around me, but there was large times when you're by yourself, and the emotions, wildly just you're thinking about all that training you've done, all the sacrifice that your family have made, so you can go out recceing nearly every weekend, all the long runs, and there you are, you're coming to the DNF, especially an event like this. It's not cheap to enter. It's significant. For 2 years on the trot, my family had to give up their summer holidays so I could go training, and we would move to we tried to get away at a half term. So it just hits you, and you after hitting that time limit, you sort of, there's no spring left. Any spring that you did have left, it was like the motivation to get to the next checkpoint. So I'd really sort of turned into a trudge by that point. I suppose from that point I was lucky in a way that I bumped into a fellow competitor who was also timed out. He'd also was struggling with a bad ankle. And so I managed to talk to him, and we sort of went down the hill together. So at least it was, forced me to keep going and, actually get to the checkpoint. The staff, or the volunteers at the checkpoint were absolutely amazing. I bumped into there was Lisa Watson, Trish Patterson, just their energy and coming down, sorting you out, getting you a drink, taking your bags off you, telling you what's going to happen. It was superb, and to be honest, I couldn't have asked for anything more from the volunteers or the organising team or anything like that. They were just superb. And the volunteers being runners as well, they understand the disappointment that you're in. That was a real help. From that point, you get minibus back to the next camp, and you have the option to enter the hatchling, and I was considering it, and maybe that would have been the clever, the wise thing to do, but I can't tell you how sort of drained and flat I felt. You were back at the camp before nearly everybody else. It's empty, you laid out all your kit, tried to get something to eat, and then you start thinking, what do I do? Again, the people at the camp, they were superb, encouraging you to do the hatchling the next day, and I just didn't quite know. If I was really honest, after DNFing, my heart just wasn't in it. I had really tired legs, but the reason that DNF was my ankle, I couldn't get it to hold up. My descending was too slow for the event. The weather, it was so wet and atrocious. Everything was so slippy that I just couldn't trust my feet or myself on some of these downhills. So at that point, that was my race over. That was a tricky one. And anybody who tries to get home from mid Wales knows how tricky that can be. I think it was by the time I went to buses, trains, to get near home, it was about, I don't know, 8 hours, and it was like a 2-hour, 3-hour drive maximum. So, that was always also tricky. So after that experience, what next? How do we move, or how do I move on from that? Well, I decided, I've been rehabbing my ankle for over a year now. It really held me back. So I decided, right, okay, time to get it sorted out. So I went to saw a specialist. They told me to get an MRI scan. Got an MRI scan. And I'm really lucky that through the work that I do have medical cover, so I managed to get all this done reasonably quickly. And I'll cover all my ankle rehab in another video. But it's still ongoing. I haven't run since that event, with all the rehab I'm doing and what they're looking at. But I started, is this the end of my Dragon's Back journey? Well, hopefully not. I've set the goal again, 2 years time, 2027, I'm going to try to do the event again. Why 2 years? Well, I think I need 2 years to rebuild. As I say, still not running with my ankle. 2 takeaways were my downhill running has got to be much better. I never got back down to my pre-injured weight into 2024. I'm still struggling a little bit with that, so I need to reduce that. So I think 2027 gives me a decent amount of time to do that. Also, it'll be the last time I can have a go before turning 50, so that's going to be the goal. Takeaway for anybody else: the event is amazing. The amount, this will sound funny, but the amount of suffering and pain that you go through while doing the event, it's worth it. It's why we do these things. So the event is amazing. I have no qualms that I'm going to have another go and definitely take another chance. And yeah, now it's time to rebuild. I've learned an awful lot and ready to go again. So if you want to hear more on how I get ready for the next event in 2 years' time and hopefully rehab this ankle, please subscribe to the channel. It does help me out. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.